Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Winning Women Talk Show. I'm your host, Regina Shearer, and you are watching RGB Internet Radio's YouTube or Facebook Live broadcast, or you're listening on RGB Internet Radio. And we're so glad you have joined us on the Winning Women Talk Show. If you are a regular, you already know that each and every week we present a different woman who shares her journey to doing that special something that she's passionate about and that fulfills her passion so that she sees success in sight. Many times we think success is based on how much money you can make, but if you've been paying attention, these women are doing things that not only fulfill their dreams, their career goals, or their passions, but that make a big difference in other people's lives. And that seems to be the common thread. So I hope that as you've been listening, you've been inspired, you've been motivated. And if you have been right on the edge of saying to yourself, I always wanted to do whatever that is, but I hope tonight that but will turn into an and so that you can say, and if she can do it, so can I. We hope that you will also know that you are welcome to participate. Each and every week, we invite you to join us on this show, and you can call in at 781 384 5587. I'll say that again, 781 384 5587, or you can email me, Regina, at rgbinternetradio.com. We would love to hear from you. So don't be shy on the phone or don't be shy on the emails because I know our guest welcomes any kind of questions that you may have or comments that you would like to make about what she shares with us tonight. I am so pleased to introduce to you Dr. Faina Stern, and she's affectionately known, or we'll say informally known as Faye. So I had already warned her I may call her Faye, but I'm probably going to call her Dr. Stern because I am impressed and mesmerized by the work and the things that she does. Dr. Stern is the president and CEO of ADME Tech Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to ending the prostate cancer crisis. And as a founder of ADME Tech, Dr. Stern has led groundbreaking programs in prostate cancer research, education, awareness, and advocacy, with a focus on the advancement of precision diagnostics and their integration with precision treatments. This work has led to recognition on prostate cancer as a public health priority by the Massachusetts legislature and the United States Congress. Dr. Stern earned her medical degree at Chernovitz Medical School in the I hope I say this right, Dr. Stern, Bukovina region of the former USSR, subsequently moving to New York City. She then completed her residency in internal medicine at Staten Island Hospital in New York. Dr. Stern went on to become, and listen to this, the first graduate from her program to be appointed as a clinical research fellow at Harvard Medical School in Boston, Massachusetts. She has provided leadership for and participated in numerous scientific and advisory committees, academic workshops, conferences in the United States and internationally, and also including the Breast Cancer Study Group of the National Academy of Medicine. She's also served as an expert witness in briefings and formal hearings held by the United States President's Cancer Panel, the United States Congress, senior officials of state and federal governments, industry, consumer organizations, the media, and of course, the general public. She's been recognized as a leader in cancer research and education. having led the development of a national research policy in diagnostic imaging and creating novel models for large scale international research programs. She also has established partnerships with government agencies, academia, and industry that facilitated advancement, I love this, and implementation of novel transformational radiologic technologies and minimally invasive diagnosis and treatment of cancer and other diseases, with a primary focus on breast cancer. There is so much more I could tell you about her, but we've got to leave her some room to tell us some things about herself. Already, as I have said from the beginning, you can tell she is no ordinary woman. That's why she's on this Winning Women talk show. And so, welcome, Dr. Stern, to the Winning Women talk show.
Regina, thank you so much for the opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here.
We are the ones who are grateful. You have done so much, but what we'd like to know what has led up to this. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, and eventually, as you moved through life, what brought you to this kind of work?
Um, I hope you would not mind if I start if I started with my memory at the age of 4.5.
That's fine.
Uh, I was obviously a child, and I was watching my little friend losing her parent and going through a very difficult process. And it was the first time that I actually dealt, had a brush with mortality. Uh, and I remember that I remember this repeated thinking that if I went through life, I always imagined this as going on a beach next to a sea. And some people go through that beach and they don't leave any kind of uh, anything behind himself, no footprints. And I thought how much I wanted to go through this life and to have footprints to make a difference. For me, at that time, it was footprints. I did not want to just disappear. I wanted to leave something behind me that would make a difference
Yes.
for people. And I was 4.5. But then I was a daughter to two, to my mother and to my father, whose entire life was about making a difference. And of course, since early childhood, I was listening to the stories. And I wanted to be very much like my dad or my mom.
Yes. Well, what so wanting to be like your parents, and you could see that they were making differences in lives. What can we ask what they actually did?
Absolutely. My mom was a teacher.
Okay.
uh, and she was always fighting for her students. She was a very popular teacher, and the parties and concerts she organized. She worked in a high school, and the parties, holiday parties, she organized performances, brought together a lot of people from surrounding areas. Students loved her. I grew up with her students being constantly in our home, and I could not, of course, verbalize at that time what was so exciting to me, but it was a sense of community filled with love. My
Yes.
father, my father was a physician who was fighting for his patients nonstop, and of course, they would come home and they would be sharing the stories.
So you had the best of both worlds, education and medicine. So it makes sense now why you are where. So as you grew older, did you, while you knew you wanted to leave some footprints, car
Mhm.
and you have carbon footprints now that you're already leaving, but as you moved on, how did you know that this was the type of medicine and research you would go into, or did you have something else in mind?
Actually, it was a complicated pathway for me. Obviously, I was born in, as you mentioned, in Ukraine, in Soviet Ukraine.
Mhm.
And um, I actually was dreaming about becoming a writer. That was my dream since the age of 6 and a half. I really wanted to be a writer. And my father, however, and my mother wanted to leave Soviet Ukraine for many years. And when I informed my parents that I wanted to be a writer, my father recruited and mobilized every friend that I ever liked, loved, and respected. He knew he could not convince me to do otherwise, but he assembled a community around him that made every effort to make sure that I would have profession that did not depend on Ukrainian or Russian language. And to make long story short, one of my parents' friends told me, Faye, it's very easy to be a mediocrity in as a writer. It's much easier to excel and to become exceptional physician. Uh,
Okay.
and being mediocrity is not something that appealed to me. So
Mhm.
this was one of the most. She also shared with me a story how a remarkable musician spent all of his life deciding if he would be a great pianist or a great composer.
Mhm.
Ended up mediocrity in both. So what I heard is I really do not want to be mediocrity. So maybe writing is not for me. And I do not want to spend the rest of my life deciding what I'm going to do. Whatever ability I have, may as well focus on something that is practical, that is familiar for me since early age. And that's how my father indirectly convinced me to go to medical school in Ukraine.
So, when you came to the United States, did you know that breast cancer was going to be a focus for you, or w- what was your medical school direction?
Cardiology, actually. Uh,
Oh.
my favorite, the most talented physician I came across in my medical school and in my training was a cardiologist. And his example was so inspiring and he was so far ahead of his time that I developed a dream to be a cardiologist. That's not what happened.
And why though?
First, I was accepted into internal medicine program in uh, uh, in Staten Island Hospital,
Mhm.
and I was the only foreigner among 60 or 70 people. Um, people like me, uh,
Mhm.
residents or interns, and.
Mhm.
Uh, um, and I was interested in cardiology until I met remarkable two women. One was a radiologist, and second was a radiologist with nuclear medicine focus
Oh.
or expertise, and they convinced me. They spent about 6 months convincing me to go into radiology. Not only they convinced me, but they provided incredible references that made me possible to become the first graduate of Staten Island Hospital to be accepted by Harvard Medical School at Mass General.
So at that time, what if you were in a program dealing with radiology, what was your role in that program? Because we don't think of you as anybody dealing with surgery. We think of imaging and things like that. Right.
Absolutely. And actually, what I chose is to go into, I had an opportunity to go into radiology, but I chose specifically nuclear medicine imaging. When you are essentially looking at molecular imaging and physiological, biological
Right.
function, as opposed to anatomic function. And that's when I came to Mass General, head of nuclear medicine program. I was a fellow trainee, and head of nuclear medicine program was passionate about research. That's how I got into cancer research. And then when in the middle of my fellowship, about 1 year into my fellowship at Mass General, I met a pioneer of MRI who happened to be one of the radiology trainees who I was training in nuclear medicine,
Hmm.
uh, Bruce Rosen. And we met, and Bruce convinced me to focus on MRI. And this was in 1985 when MRI, magnetic resonance imaging, was very new. So the rest is history.
So
Then
I'm just curious. Can you explain to us what nuclear radiology is?
nuclear radiology is utilizing uh, utilizing dye that targets either molecular property
Hmm.
of tissues or organs or physiological property of tissue. So you are actually looking at biology and physiology as opposed to anatomy. Uh, but what fascinated me about MRI is that MRI had anatomic precision that nuclear medicine did not have.
Mm.
So, what happened is that I actually switched from nuclear medicine to MRI, and with encouragement from Dr. Bruce Rosen, who was one of pioneer of MRI in the world. And then I was asked to stay on faculty. I initiated research that became successful, and I was asked to join Harvard Medical School faculty and Mass General, uh,
Mm.
which I did in 1987.
Mhm.
And then by 1990, I was invited to head diagnostic imaging research branch at the National Cancer Institute.
Okay. So at that point, breast cancer became your focus because of the imaging, etc. What what was it about that work, that research?
Sure. Uh, at that time, at around when I joined National Cancer Institute, uh, breast cancer was one of the national priorities. There
Okay.
was a very strong breast cancer advocacy in this country, and women very justifiably were not happy with the state of breast imaging at that time. And it had become very clear. I assembled advisory boards of leading academic consultants, leading experts in imaging and other areas of breast cancer, and it became obvious to me there was a desperate need. At that time, women had only film based mammography, which was not diagnostic in about 40% of younger women. It could not see because um, younger women had tissues that was not transparent for
Right.
X-ray.
Right.
Uh, 40%. So when I heard that 40% of women younger than 50 had non-diagnostic film-based mammography, this was horrendous number. And
Yes.
so, and what happened was that I asked by director of NCI, by director of my division in NCI to focus on breast cancer imaging. And I started working with leaders of academia internationally, leading academic institutions internationally, and we also brought industry on board in
Mhm.
order to facilitate research development and clinical implementation of breast cancer imaging. So together we created full field digital mammography, which is standard today, precision image guided stereotactic biopsy, which is standard today, and we worked on minimally invasive lumpectomy that replaced a radical mastectomy.
I hope that everyone listening and watching just heard what she shared about the work that she did and the progress that that created for women, especially. I can remember, and I'm sure that was probably the time that you were there, that women hated to get a mammography, not just because it was painful in many cases, but because at least I felt like 6 out of 10 women would all come back and say they found a shadow. They found something, right, on my
Yeah,
image and get really frightened. And then the other thing was with lymph nodes. And and I know actually know some people who had the biopsies and everything done in the lymph node area, and it found out it wasn't cancer. But
exactly.
when I think of all the things that 30 years ago, 20 even, that women have gone through in this breast cancer piece, and to know that the imaging that you created, the diagnostics of radiology and everything, that they've reduced how much uh, discomfort and fear that women
Absolutely.
have.
And it was also in addition to statistics about uh, mammography, film-based mammography not being diagnostic in about 40% of women younger than 50. It was also outrageous that we did not have accurate diagnostic tools, accurate imaging tools, in order to guide biopsy needle for diagnosis of breast cancer. Instead, we did not have good diagnostic tools, and men and women actually had a part of the breast removed
Yes.
for histologic analysis and diagnosis. This was not done in any other part of human body outside of prostate cancer, and at that time, and it was pretty outrageous. Essentially, women needed to have minimally invasive lumpectomy in order to have diagnosis
Right.
breast cancer. And then they had this mastectomy that was so profoundly caused, caused deformities of women bodies and such, so much suffering. So switching from um, surgery to needles, from knife to needles for a diagnosis for biopsy, switch
Yes.
from a radical surgery to minimally invasive lumpectomy with completely different outcomes for women, of course, was very important to me. And in addition to mammography, we also developed breast MRI,
Mm-hmm.
was which improved diagnosis compared to X-ray mammography, and it was very rewarding to see what happened. But what else we learned when we switched from surgical biopsy to minimally invasive biopsy, from radical surgery to minimally invasive treatment, we saw with great excitement how many more women, particularly minority women, were became less afraid of screening for breast cancer because they knew about minimally invasive biopsy and minimally invasive treatment. So the compliance with screening transformed. And in the
Mm-hmm.
process, what we
Right.
saw improved early detection, that impacted breast cancer mortality for everyone and drastically reduced um, health disparities in Black and other minority women.
Right. Well, I'm really glad that they talked you out of becoming a writer. So, because when you and I talked in our pre show meeting, you said something. And as I'm listening to all the information you're talking about now, I can much more appreciate the work, the research in particular that you were doing. But you said something about when you were talking about ratios. I would love for you to share when you went to work at the National Cancer Institute in the 33 departments of the National Cancer Institute. How many women were there?
I was the only one in my division.
There you have it,
Out of,
listeners and viewers, the only woman in her.
I was the only woman branch chief among 33 branch chiefs. Not only was I the only woman, but I was probably 10, 15 years younger than all other branch chiefs. So very frequently when I walk into the room, people thought that I was a secretary because there was no experience for people with women in a position of branch chiefs, which would be an equivalent of chairmanship of a department. So
Mhm.
it was a very interesting experience.
So I'm going to assume that there were some regularly scheduled branch chief meetings, and you were sitting there younger than your male counterparts. What were some of the challenges you felt in that role?
I felt tremendous, overwhelming responsibility for who I was being as a professional, who I was being as a human being, because my commitment was to make sure that I will pave the way for other women. So
Mhm.
I knew everyone was looking at me. And I felt tremendous, overwhelming responsibility to make sure that we will create more favorable and more accepting environment so that women would no longer be an exception. Women would be everywhere.
Wow.
Also
I
very mindful. As I mentioned yesterday, I was mindful that I have to be 3 times more professional than anyone around me, and I was very mindful that my ideas must be 3 times more exciting.
that's that's still stressful.
It is very stressful.
There's so much that is involved in that. You have to be tactful, strategic. You have to be as close to knowing everything I'm saying is absolutely correct. The- Wow. I want to take a moment to read an email that came in and says, "Good evening, Dr. Fay. I must admit the breast imaging machine is my least favorite machine. In your opinion, are there ways that the design of this machine can be improved? I'm certainly very grateful for the technology, but I've been wondering. It's quite awkward and uncomfortable."
Yeah, it is actually, unfortunately, we did not find a way, and we still cannot find a way around pain and discomfort and embarrassment of even digital mammography. On the other hand, MRI is a completely different choice. Nobody, so this was actually one of the reasons um, why I was so passionate about developing MRI and ultrasound of the breast, because this is an option, and some women started opting for breast MRI as opposed to digital mammography, and I do not blame them.
Yes, and I have been a recipient of those, both the sonography and that, and there no pain, no
A lot of
discomfort.
noise, забирай,
Yeah.
but no way nobody is managing your breast manually.
Yes, exactly. For those of you who may have just joined us or recently joined us, you have been listening to Dr. Stern, who is the CEO and president of ADME, ADME Tech Foundation, ADME Tech Foundation, which is a nonprofit that's dedicated to prostate cancer, but also has been engaged in breast cancer research and imaging and treatment. And uh, we've been listening to some amazing work that, as a result of her being able, one, to be part of the National Cancer Institute, and then moving on to be a founder of AdmiTech, that her work is touching not just in individual lives, but it's touching the medical industry. It's touching hospitals. It's making a difference in so many ways, and it's not just breast cancer, it's also prostate cancer. And I love that she is an equity person, women and men she's concerned about. And so we're going to hear more about her work in and how she became involved in men's prostate cancer as well. But we have to take a quick break. And so we're going to hear from one of our sponsors, but we also want to hear from you. And again, please feel free to call in or email, as we just heard one. 781 is the call in number. It's on your screen. Or you can email me, Regina, at rgbinternetradio.com. Don't go too far. We're going to be right back with. At Portal to Hope, we're here to help victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking crimes. We provide support, resources, and hope to those who need it most. We believe that everyone deserves to live a life free from violence. If you or someone you know is in danger, please reach out for help. Call us at 781-338-7678. We offer a variety of services including counseling, legal aid, job assistance, and housing support. We also work to raise awareness about these issues and to advocate for change. Together, we can create a world where everyone is safe and free from violence. Portal to Hope is here for you. And we are back with Dr. Faye, I'll call her now. And when we took our break, one of the things that we had talked about was your concern around prostate cancer and health for men going through that. And I know that somewhere with the whole notion of imaging and diagnostics, you uncovered some things. Your research led you to this concern. So can you share with us how you got
Absolutely.
that one over there on that side?
The pathway from breast cancer to prostate cancer for me was both personal and professional.
Okay.
First of all, it's a head of diagnostic imaging for the National Cancer Institute. By 1995, 1996, all of our programs in digital mammography, in MRI, stereotactic precision biopsy, minimally invasive treatment were all on the way. It would take a few years to complete them, but they were all on the way. So we were looking for a new national priority.
Okay.
And our academic advisors suggested prostate imaging, because prostate imaging was even more backwards and lagging behind, perhaps a couple of decades compared even to mammography in women. So and as it happened, at about the same time, my father's prostate cancer was missed at a leading hospital. His outstanding urologist suspected benign disease, and during biopsy, he was found to have prostate cancer. And I was absolutely shocked that a distinguished urologist to celebrities and VIPs, uh, could miss my father's prostate cancer. It was clear to me it was not his fault. He did not have diagnostic tools. He did not have imaging tools.
Oh,
So
oh,
this had so it became a confluence of professional commitment and personal passion. And within several years, I switched from breast cancer to prostate cancer. And what particularly had caused the switch was because, based on recommendation of our academic experts, we proposed to make prostate cancer imaging priority for the National Cancer Institute in a hope to have inflow of funding for development of prostate cancer imaging because everything was blind. Biopsies were blind, diagnosis was blind, treatment was blind in prostate cancer.
hmm,
And we spent about me and my colleagues in NCI and leaders of academia spent about 1 year trying to convince NCI to make prostate cancer their priority. And to our complete shock, we couldn't. So by the end of that year, my colleagues and I decided to create Admitech Foundation in a private sector to provide the kind of leadership in prostate imaging research that NCI was not willing or ready to provide. And that's what Admitech Foundation had become about. We started as a research organization. We pioneered prostate MRI, we pioneered molecular imaging, many other imaging tools that are standard today, robotics for prostate cancer biopsy and treatment, many other things. Then we had developed medical educational programs, global conferences, medical conferences um, on for medical education and prostate imaging and research, really minimally invasive image guided treatment. We had a footprint that we had for breast cancer that we followed. And then by 2005, we unrolled a large scale campaign called Where is Menogram? Prostate Imaging for Men. Um, by 2009, we focused our public awareness campaign on Massachusetts. We had the first um, public awareness event in the State House in Massachusetts. We just had 17th last March. And then we initiated, we learned, I learned in NCI, the critical role of advocacy with legislators in Congress.
hmm,
I was doing, I must say, very reluctantly, only because NCI asked me. But I learned how educating legislators led to increased funding for breast cancer imaging and minimally invasive treatment. So we focused our efforts first on Congress, US Congress,
hmm,
and on Massachusetts legislature, and ultimately we created, uh, with support of Massachusetts legislature, we created probably the first in the nation prostate cancer program that led to clinical trial of prostate MRI, which was essential for transitioning prostate MRI from experimental stage to men. Uh,
wow,
and then we had a research program integrating imaging with genetics, molecular diagnostics, physiologic diagnostics, etc. And right now we are working on uh, facilitating facilitating clinical evaluation and large-scale implementation of minimal invasive treatment for prostate cancer, which is long overdue
right,
because women with breast cancer had access minimally invasive treatment for 25 years.
right.
Now it's about time for men to get access to minimally invasive treatment of prostate cancer instead of radical prostatectomy. So we are very much following the footprint we created for breast cancer, uh, from non-invasive MRI, non-invasive molecular imaging, integration of that with other molecular diagnostics, genetic diagnostics, and others, and right now working on minimally invasive treatment for men.
Dr. Fay, this is interesting because, and I know this is a feminist, my feminist point of view. Over my lifetime, it has always seemed that what women have needed medically has always been put on the back burner and is the last thing that happens. And men are the ones getting, and what is this is a reverse that when it comes to prostate cancer, that men are 30 years behind,
Yeah,
right?
there were two things that shocked me and and focused my attention of prostate cancer in the late 90s. One was that prostate cancer was as common as breast cancer, and yet diagnostics and treatment were lagging behind by a couple of decades. And secondly, prostate cancer was a leading health disparity in Black, including Hispanic men, and nobody talked about it. Nobody talked about prostate cancer. Nobody talked about horrendous disparities, and the fact that Black men were dying at a rate of 2.5 times higher. And I remember we had a Black man who headed one of the institutes in NIH, Roderick Pettigrew, actually happened to be Institute of essentially radiologic imaging and related technologies. And when I told Rad, who trained with me at Mass General, um, when I told Rad that um, prostate cancer, a Black man, Black leading physician, when I told him that prostate cancer was a leading health disparity, he was as shocked as I was.
Yes.
And then we both testified to Congress, and he said the first time he heard about prostate cancer as a disparity was from me. And it was shocking to me that nobody talked about it, nobody paid attention. So we became, I assembled people around me, and we became the voice for men with prostate cancer.
So the manogram program is in place so that there's equity in prostate cancer research and prostate cancer treatments.
Absolutely.
And I'm so glad to hear that it's down to non-invasive imaging and all of these things. But what a difference ADME Tech Foundation has made. I mean, I read all of these things about the foundation, but the advocacy, the appearances before Congress and legislative groups, government groups, and to share with them that this is a crisis, that this is a serious concern. Thank you so much for that kind of work. Um, I have another email that says, "Hi, Dr. Stern. Thank you for your great and pioneering work. The world has been and will be a better place because of you. Does AI now have a role in diagnosis for cancer? Does it speed up the possibility of better treatment or even getting close to a cure?"
Uh, well, uh, we don't have the data quite yet, but we even in when I was doing digital mammography uh, research, one of the things that we paid exceeding attention to, and I'm talking about the 90s, when you switch from film-based mammography to digital imaging, you created two possibilities. Uh, Image processing using artificial intelligence,
Mhm.
and transmission of images, what we call teleradiology. And what it means in practical terms is you can bring world-class expertise to the most remote, underserved, and rural populations. And what we showed in the 90s, what the work we supported in the 90s in terms of image processing using AI was actually pioneered by University of Chicago group. And they demonstrated that when you have access to AI and you compare clinical diagnostic performance of radiologists, you will see AI helped general radiologists to read mammography just as accurately as experts in mammography, because we would focus radiologist attention on areas of potential abnormalities, and then they would make a call. So this was demonstrated in breast cancer in the 90s, and we see similar data right now coming up in digital imaging of prostate cancer.
The world is changing, and
Yeah.
so much because of the work that companies like yours do. Medical groups are researching and exploring, and I know AI will make a difference
There
in.
is no question.
Yeah.
We right now have so much. When we look at a regular MRI of the prostate for one man, we will have probably close to 1,000 or more individual images. And then, in addition to MRI, we may have molecular imaging. We have molecular diagnostics, genetics, etc. It's no longer possible to process everything cognitively as
Mm.
an individual physician. Integration of diagnostic tools and analysis of that integration is potentially an enormously important area of AI. So instead of just based on one set of images, one kind of images, you will have help of AI analyzing all the different diagnostic tools and coming up with extremely important information for
Yes,
making decisions for patient management.
yes. So I hate to do this. We have to take another quick break for one of our sponsors. But again, for those of you watching and listening, we invite you, please don't be shy. 781 or you can email me, Regina at rgbinternetradio.com. I know this is very interesting. And Dr. Fay, I have to tell you, when people really want to listen, they they won't call in because there's a lag, right? So that they can't watch you and listen to you at the same time and be on the phone. So, but we're encouraging you, if you want to, our lines are open, but don't go away. We're going to take a quick break for one of our sponsors, and we will be right.
Life can be unpredictable, and when those moments occur, you want the assurance that your family and property are protected. Sabatino Mastrocola Insurance Agency provides insurance coverage and security for every situation: home, life, flood, car, personal, or property. We're here to help you protect what matters most: your future. We are a full-service insurance agency providing experienced experts who speak Spanish, Portuguese, and English to assist you in acquiring the type of insurance coverage you need. That's the Sabatino Mastrocola promise. Contact us at 617-387-7466 or on our website, www.sabatino-ins.com. Get peace of mind today for uncertain tomorrows.
Thank you. We are back with our guest tonight, Dr. Faina Stern, and she is sharing with us some incredible information in cancer research pertaining to both women's breast cancer and men with prostate cancer. I mentioned earlier about I think it's the manogram, the man program, I'll call it, for prostate cancer. But there's another piece in it that addresses equity research policy. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah,
How is that going to happen?
I love working with people. I always loved working with patients. And one thing, but I got involved in these major research programs, making conceptual impact on a lot of people. It was important for me to find a way so that uh, I would have an experience of making a difference for individual men, like 1% at a time. And we created a program which we called Prostate Cancer Equity Resource Program. Uh, we built incredible network of key opinion leaders across the globe, particularly in Massachusetts, that we are working with on our project, who are leading clinical care and research. And we asked them to work with us on focusing particular on high-risk men, and in particular, Black, Hispanic, and Latino men who are at higher risk of disease, higher risk of poor quality of care, higher risk of death. Uh, and they agreed. So we created a network of world-leading physicians who agreed to serve and agreed to treat the most underserved people in Black, Hispanic, and Latino community as VAPs, as the way we would take care of our family and friends. And I believe strongly that's what it would take to deal with completely understandable historic lack of trust in medical institutions in
Yes.
the country. And we created Prostate Cancer Equity Resource Project. And it also had come about because during our public awareness events with NACP and other leading organizations, individual men would come to us for help. So, but it's one thing to take care of one man. It's another thing to create a infrastructure of support to create many to be able to help many people.
Right.
And we established Prostate Cancer Equity Resource Project in 2021, 2022.
Okay.
And since that time, every man who came into this program, and by now it is well over 120 men that we served,
Yes.
and every man who got into this program got the best care clinical community in prostate cancer can offer anyone today. The dominating majority of men who came to us are from Black community.
Now, did you reach out to for people to recommend them, or did they find out through the manogram program, or how did that happen?
That's a great question. We've established public awareness, public educational program with NACP branches in
Okay.
Massachusetts, with many other organizations serving people of color.
Okay.
And over between 2015 and 2021, we were lucky to build incredibly productive relationship based on respect and trust.
Mm-hmm.
So by 2021, 2022, I shared with leaders of the community what the ideas that we had. They already so impact on individual men in the past. Uh, and we had a series of focus groups to get their advice how we can serve Black men in the or Latino Hispanic men in the best possible way. It
Yes.
created a process when men deal in Admitech with one or two people, they deal with demand of clinical partners to have patient navigator. So men deal with one person primarily
Mm-hmm.
at clinical institutions, and men are not bounced about from registration department to transportation department to
Yes.
financial assistance department to insurance department, etc., etc., etc.
Yes.
This way, there is a possibility to build trust between individual men,
Mm-hmm.
people who serve them. So it's sort of centralized clearinghouse between us and between two people, essentially, at Admitech. Emma Coyert, who you met, who is managing this program, and me, and clinical navigators at clinical institutions. We help these men and make sure that they will get an expedited appointment. First of all, that they will not be dealing with impersonal schedulers, which is very off putting in many instances for people.
Yes.
And then, if there is any clinical recommendation for further diagnosis or treatment, men will get what they need. And we are working with leaders of the community to make sure we will not see in our program what we see in the rest of the country and the rest of the state, when Black men are much more likely to fall out of follow-up, to not do follow-up.
Yep.
In Massachusetts, they're 22% less likely to comply with physicians' recommendation, largely because there is no trust. So we are working with leaders of the community, not only for one appointment, but to make sure that men will get everything they need in terms of diagnosis and treatment. So if men stopped returning our phone calls, we go to their friends in the community
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that men will get back on track.
That is absolutely wonderful. Dr. Stern, all I can say is I cannot believe our time is up. But I want to thank you. I want to thank ADME Tech Foundation. I want to thank the Manogram program. I want to thank you for the amazing I want to thank Harvard for calling you there to get involved with the nuclear medicine program and all of the things that you have done it at the National Cancer Institute and through ADME Tech Foundation. So many people are benefiting from that. I know there are a lot of women feeling really good about knowing there are a couple of other options for breast cancer, but I also appreciate the very individualized and personalized care for men with prostate cancer in the program that you're offering now and not allowing them to fall through the cracks because you're building the trust that they have not seen for years. And so thank you for your work. And I would like to ask you what's next, but I guess we're going to have you back some other time. But thank you so much for being on this show. And if anyone wants to know more about you, about the work you do, they can go to the ADME techfoundation.org website.
Admitech.org.
Yes, .org.
Call if they need any help with prostate cancer, particularly in Massachusetts. They can call 617-523-3535.
617-523
3535.
3535. Okay. We are thankful. Thank you so much. You are a winning woman. You are, as I say, she nominal. And so we thank you so much for the time you've spent on this show and for the work you do and for the lives you have made better because of the work you do. And for those of you who have been watching, we thank you for spending time with us this evening on the Winning Women Talk Show. Remember, we're on every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. And we hope we'll see you back here next week, same time, same place, different woman on the Winning Women Talk Show. Unfortunately, we have to say goodbye. We're out of here. Thank you, Dr. Stern.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Regina. Thank you.